There's something magical about the word persistence. It carries a quiet kind of power, a silent force that moves mountains without noise. Today, we dive deep into why, when it comes to manifestation, persistence is not just important, it's everything. Neville Goddard often said that the real battle is not with the outer world, but with staying loyal to the unseen reality inside. And yet, in a world that worships speed, quick fixes, and instant results, the idea of persistence feels almost outdated. But what if that's the very reason why so many feel stuck? It's not that manifestation doesn't work. It's not that dreams are too big. It's that the mind is conditioned to give up too soon, to look outside for proof, to doubt when things take longer than expected. But imagine this. Imagine walking through a dense fog where nothing is visible, but still taking each step with total trust that the path exists. That's persistence. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's a quiet decision to continue seeing and feeling the end, no matter what the senses scream. Reality, Neville taught, is shaped by loyalty to the unseen. Every great shift in life, every manifestation that seemed impossible, wasn't about doing more. It was about staying anchored. Staying anchored to the new self-image when everything outside said, nothing is happening. And this isn't about forcing or straining. True persistence is gentle but unshakable. It's a tender, powerful faith in the unseen, in the self one has chosen to become. That is the energy that eventually bends reality. And in truth, nothing else matters. No perfect technique, no secret method, no latest trend can replace this. Because manifestation is not about what is done once. It's about what is lived consistently, faithfully, even, and especially, when nothing seems to change. One of the cruelest illusions of manifestation is that silence means failure. That if things aren't happening loudly, visibly, dramatically, then they're not happening at all. But that's the greatest lie the senses can tell. Neville made it so clear, creation happens in silence. Seeds sprout underground before anyone ever sees the first green shoot. When a new version of life is planted through imagination, it doesn't immediately burst into full bloom. There's an invisible phase, a sacred phase, a phase where it seems like nothing is happening. But in truth, everything is happening. Cells are rearranging, opportunities are aligning, people are being moved, circumstances are quietly shifting. And yet, during this phase, the temptation to doubt is strongest. The mind, conditioned by years of show me first, starts whispering, see, nothing changed, give up. But that moment, that exact moment, is where destiny is decided. Because giving up during the silence is like digging up a seed the moment it's about to break through. It's choosing old self over new self. Persistence means refusing to let the silence fool the heart. It means recognizing the silence for what it is, the final stirring of the old world before the new world emerges. And when the mind is screaming for evidence, that is the sacred call to double down on faith, to sit deeper in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to embody the new story even more fully. The silence is not punishment. It's the confirmation that something real is being born. And those who persist, those who stay loyal to their chosen reality through the stillness, are the ones who wake up one day and realize, almost without noticing, that everything they imagined has materialized. One of the biggest misunderstandings about persistence is thinking it's about trying harder, struggling more, forcing oneself to think positive thoughts. But that's not what Neville taught at all. Persistence isn't about battling with thoughts all day. It's about identity. It's about being the version of self that already has the desire. Not occasionally, not only when things feel good, but as a natural state. Identity is powerful because it doesn't have to be maintained through effort. Once a new identity is fully accepted, persistence becomes automatic. Think about it like this: a tree doesn't struggle to be a tree. It just is. A singer doesn't struggle to think of themselves as a singer once it's accepted deep within. In the same way, when the new reality is worn like a second skin, when it's felt so real, so natural, so obvious, then persistence isn't even something to think about. It just happens. But until that identity shift happens, the mind will keep trying to manifest things from the old self-image. It will keep waiting, doubting, checking the mirror. And that's why persistence isn't about effort. It's about allowing oneself to become. Neville always said, dare to assume you are what you want to be. Not visit it. Not hope for it. Assume it. And every time the mind wants to drag back the old identity, persistence is the quiet return to the new one. Again, and again, and again, until it's no longer a practice. It's a being. It's tempting, when things don't show up fast, to think, maybe this method isn't working. Or, maybe I need a new technique. But at the root of all failed manifestations, there's one thing in common: broken persistence. Reality eventually conforms to the dominant assumption, not the occasional wish. It's not the beautiful scripting session, or the deep meditation one night, that brings the change. It's the daily loyalty to the unseen reality, especially when doubts, fears, and realistic thoughts creep in. Neville described it beautifully: the moment one accepts a new reality inwardly, a bridge of incidents begins to unfold. And sometimes the bridge looks messy. Sometimes it even looks like things are getting worse. But the mistake is in interpreting these bridges as signs of failure instead of signs of progress. Persistence means understanding that outer appearances are not the authority. Inner conviction is. Every time the senses scream, "Look, it's not happening," that is not proof of failure. It's proof that the old reality is throwing its last tantrum before fading away. Those who win in manifestation are not the ones with perfect thoughts. They're the ones who stay loyal to their end despite imperfect emotions, despite bad days, despite setbacks. Reality can only delay, but it cannot deny a self that persists. That's the law. That's the unbreakable truth. At its core, reality is a mirror, not of wishes, not of effort, but of the dominant self-concept. And the dominant self-concept is built through persistence. Every moment spent imagining the desired life, feeling it, living from it, is like polishing the mirror a little more. Until, one day, the outer world reflects it so clearly that it feels inevitable. Manifestation isn't magic. It's law. It's the law of identical harvest. Whatever self-image is held onto longest and deepest must be outpictured. The mirror cannot lie, but mirrors have lag time. Just like turning a giant ship doesn't happen instantly, shifting an outer life takes persistence through that lag. Neville explained it simply: imagining creates reality. But the imagining must become habitual, natural, automatic. Not a forced act. A natural identity. And how does it become natural? Persistence. Quiet, loyal persistence to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To the end already achieved. Not sometimes. Always. Even when nothing outside has changed. Especially then. The world doesn't need convincing. It needs consistency. And those who persist long enough eventually see the mirror change, not by accident, but by law. If there's one truth that wraps everything Neville ever taught, it's this: living in the end is the secret. Not visualizing once, not affirming a few times, but living mentally, emotionally, vibrationally in the end. Living as if it's already done. Persistence is what makes this living real. Without persistence, living in the end becomes a part-time hobby, something done only when inspired. But when persistence enters, living in the end becomes a way of being. It becomes natural to wake up feeling as the person who has already received. It becomes natural to walk, talk, think, and move through the day as if the desire is already fact. Not forcing, not pretending, being. And it's this living that magnetizes everything needed. Neville taught that imaginal acts are causal, meaning the moment something is fully accepted inwardly, reality has no choice but to conform. But the key is, the acceptance must persist. The moment one stops living in the end, the manifestation slows or collapses. That's why persistence beats everything else. It's not about doing more. It's about being so consistent in living the end that there's no room left for the old story. There's no doubt left to entertain. The new world becomes the only world, inside first, outside second. There's an alchemy that happens when persistence is practiced. Doubts that once felt overwhelming start to lose their power. Fear that once paralyzed action starts to dissolve. What once seemed impossible starts feeling inevitable. Not because the mind is forced to think positive all the time, but because staying loyal to the end vision, day after day, rewires the subconscious. Neville emphasized that feeling creates reality. Not fleeting emotions, but dominant feelings, the atmosphere of belief one lives in. And the only way to make that atmosphere dominant is through persistence. Each time a doubt arises and one gently returns to the end, it's like laying another brick in the foundation of certainty. Each time fear whispers, "What if it doesn't happen?" And the imagination answers, "It's already done." The mind becomes a little more stable. Over time, the scale tips. The new reality starts feeling more natural than the old one. And when that tipping point is reached, when the new self feels more real than the old doubts, manifestation becomes effortless. The world rearranges with a grace that feels magical but is simply the outpicturing of the inner persistence. Doubt doesn't destroy manifestation. Yielding to doubt does. And persistence is the shield that protects the seed of desire until it blooms. At the deepest level, persistence is an act of love. Love for the new self chosen. Love for the dream seated in the heart. Love for the invisible truth that is more real than any temporary outer fact. Persistence is saying, "I refuse to betray my vision, no matter how things look." It's standing firm not out of stubbornness, but out of devotion. Manifestation is not a transaction, it's a relationship. A relationship between the seen and unseen. Between self and desire, between imagination and experience. And like any relationship, it thrives on loyalty. On showing up even when things feel hard. On believing even when doubts creep in. On loving the new life into existence with unwavering faith. Neville said it beautifully: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption. That is love in action. That is the secret that beats everything else. When persistence becomes a natural expression of self-love, manifestation stops being a battle and becomes a celebration. Reality bends to the loyalty shown to the unseen. And the one who persists is the one who, without strain, without struggle, lives to see every desire bloom into tangible, breathtaking reality. Persistence isn't about chasing or forcing. It's about finally trusting who you truly are, even before the world shows it to you. Stay loyal to your inner vision, because your reality is simply catching up to the new you. If today's message spoke to something deep inside you, I'd love to hear about it. Comment below and tell me, what are you choosing to stay loyal to starting today?